Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Parsley channel. I'm Tom, just like Parsley, we get into a little bit of everything. And boy, what a beautiful day it is today. So where are we? We are in Babylon, the village of Babylon. Right behind me here is the dam bridge of Argyle Lake State Park. It's a very beautiful day. This is like the nicest day of the entire winter. It's almost 70 degrees. So look, no jacket, a little bit of hat because it's still a little chilly here. But so we're going to revisit this river. This is Carl's River. We're gonna kind of go fill in. I'm gonna put in the link over here somewhere where we did the whole tour of beginning to end of the Carl's River, and we'll talk about the fish ladder. Fish ladder's right behind me over here, right over there. We're gonna take a look over there. It's a little early for alewives. It's kind of beginning of March, kind of staying in the shade of this tree over here. But underneath Montauk Highway, which is right behind me over here, a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people out today. So right underneath, but right behind me over here, you can see the canal right over here. So this Carl's River flows under Montauk Highway and continues all the way to Great South Bay. So we're going to take a look at the fish ladder, and then we're going to take a look at Argyle Lake. We're going to do a little bit of local history, and we're going to track the Carl's River up to where we kind of stopped with our last video. And we'll do a little bit of Long Island history, what I like to call it, it's not my term, I heard it from someone before, the South Shore Gold Coast. And we'll do a little Gilded Age stuff too. So, all right, come on, let's go along. The fish ladder's right behind me over here. I'm right at the bridge. You can see behind me here, the water's kind of flowing. It's a little too early. The water's still a little too cold for alewives, but in a couple of weeks, they're gonna start coming upstream and hopefully start going up the fish ladder. If you remember, alewives are a diadromous fish. In other words, they live in salt water, but they come up into fresh water to spawn, just like trout, salmon, herring. So alewives are kind of in the herring family. I'll put the water temperature down here because I didn't look at it before I came here, but it's still, I think it's below 60 degrees. Even though the air temperature is like almost 70, the water's still pretty cold. So it's still too early for alewives, but let's go over and take a look at the fish ladder and see how it's operating. So here's the base of the fish ladder. There's my shadow. Hi, everybody. So this is the fish ladder. The fish can come all the way up, especially when the tide comes up. It's a little easier for them. I don't know if you can see the bottom. I don't have the polarized lens on the camera here, but you might be able to see the bottom. It's pretty clear, but it's still too cold for alewives. We're just a little too early. A couple more weeks, and we might start to see alewives start piling up over here, going up the fish ladder. So fish ladder comes right from, so the water comes right over here. The canal is over there. That's Montauk Highway over there. And it just flows under, and then the fish can go right uphill, up the river. And let's walk up this fish ladder here so you could hear and maybe see the water that the fish would travel. And then the fish would just go right out over there. So the water's coming out. So when the tide's up, the current slows down a little bit, and you would see fish just keep shooting right out to in here, which is Argyle Lake, which is a man-made lake. We'll get into a little bit of history of it, but this was where the Argyle Hotel was back in the 1880s, and the outlet for Argyle Lake is up at the other bridge over there. We're going to walk up there in a minute. And we're right by the Long Island Railroad. So we'll go to another quiet spot because there's a lot of people here, a lot of dogs. Just want to get to a quiet spot, and here comes some Canada geese. Okay, check back in. This is a little interesting thing that you might see as you're kind of walking around, these brass discs that are embedded in a permanent structure, because this is called a benchmark. This is a permanent place to come back for map makers, cartographers. And this has been here. Let's see if there's a year on here. I don't see a year, but usually this point is where you put the transit point, so you can measure for map making. Zoom out a little bit. Usually you see these on topo maps. They're labeled BM, not the other BM. BM stands for benchmark because they are permanent spots to make maps. This is where you put the transit with the level line, and it's all for the map maker. So every once in a while when you're out and about, especially on top of mountains, you'll see these benchmarks, and it's always fun to find them on the tops of mountains to do a little rubbing or collecting with them. Okay, we'll continue. All right, so we're at the spot of the former Argyle Hotel. So history lesson time. So we're going to go back to the 1880s, around, I guess, Gilded Age time. I mentioned a term before. I can't take credit for this term. I heard someone else do it. On Long Island, just in case you don't know where we are, we're in Babylon. We're on the south shore of Long Island. The Long Island Railroad is right behind me over here, so you might hear the train come by. We'll talk about the Long Island Railroad in a minute. But you might have heard Long Island has the North Shore Gold Coast, where a lot of the big time people lived. J.P. Morgan was up that way. There's a lot of mansions up along that way. But there's also, I heard this term the other day, the South Shore Gold Coast, because there were a lot of rich people from that Gilded Age time that were also here on the South Shore. The Vanderbilts, the Belmonts, the Bournes, the Cuttings, William Bayard Cutting. We'll get into him on another video, but more than likely the Vanderbilts and the Belmonts we're going to talk about today, because Belmont of Belmont Stakes, which is a big horse race, one of the Triple Crown horse races, and Belmont Park, which is the horse racing. He had a thoroughbred horse stable right here. It's now Belmont State Park, which is up over there. It's now the headquarters of Long Island State Parks. We'll probably do a separate video, but in my other video that I linked before, we did a little walk around over there. It was a lot colder back then. But anyway, back to the Argyle Hotel. So the Argyle Hotel was built by August Belmont. He was the patriarch of the Belmont family, and I'll tell you the connection with the Vanderbilts in a minute. But the Argyle Hotel was built right here, right on the site of this lake, Argyle Lake, which was built as again, all of these south-flowing rivers on the south shore of Long Island were all dammed for mill ponds, for mills, for sawmills, for grist mills, flour mills, any kind of mill. And this was also dammed before the 1880s as a grist mill. August Belmont bought the land, had a couple of investors, and built this Argyle Hotel, because at that time, we have the railroad over here. Again, I'll talk about the railroad history in a minute, but the railroad was bringing people from New York City to this idyllic area of the South Shore. It was beautiful. Fire Island, the South Shore beaches, the fresh air. There wasn't a lot of people out here back then. So it was used a lot for tourists, and especially of the rich. The rich used to come out here all the time. So this was like their playground out here. So August Belmont built this grand hotel. There's about 350 rooms, massive. It filled up this entire, see this whole area behind me here? Filled up this whole area right on the lake. It was really pretty. I'll put a picture of it somewhere around here. But it only lasted about 20 years, because if 350 rooms, not many people were coming out here, so they had to tear it down. And then all the houses that are behind me over here on the property line over here, they were all built using pieces from the hotel. So Argyle Hotel was a pretty big historical piece right over here. And the word Argyle actually comes from the Duke of Argyle in Scotland, only it's spelt Argyll. And he was one of the financiers of the hotel, and they decided to just call it Argyle Lake, Argyle Park, because of this Argyle guy that he probably financed and put the most amount of money in it. The other fun fact is that one of the African-American baseball teams, some people say it was the first one, was started here, the Cuban Giants. And I'll show you the historical marker right over here. So here's the historical marker for the Cuban Giants. It was employees from the Argyle Hotel that started the first baseball team, African-American baseball team, right here. I'll show you the other monument. So this is the other monument. This is where the Argyle Hotel was. This whole area here, it was right on the lake, was all the hotel, and all these houses over here were built when it was demolished in the 1900s, 1902 or something. So the Argyle Hotel was only up for about 20 years. So we're going to continue this way, but let's talk about Vanderbilt's and the Belmonts, because there's an interesting story of intrigue. So August Belmont had a son, Oliver Belmont, and William Kissam Vanderbilt, William K. Vanderbilt the first, whose, I think, grandfather was Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was somehow related in the family tree to Gloria Vanderbilt, who's also related in the family tree to Anderson Cooper. So if you watch the show The Gilded Age on HBO, there's a family on there called the Russells, and the Russells are loosely based on the Vanderbilts, because the Vanderbilts were considered to be new money, not old money like from the Revolutionary War. And the Vanderbilts' money came from the railroad, so, which is right behind me. So the William K. Vanderbilt, his wife Alva, was Mrs. Russell, a kind of very eccentric millionaire's wife. She wanted to get on that 400 list of the Mrs. Astor had, but she was considered new money, so they were all like, we don't want to hang out with you. But what was going on back then is, I don't want to call it wife swapping, but, they would go to parties and everybody would see each other. And Alva was getting, I guess, disenchanted with William Vanderbilt. And she said, I'm out. Divorced him and then shacked up with August Belmont's son, Oliver. I think it was Oliver Belmont. If it's not, I'll put it down here in the bottom here. Oliver Belmont. And, these Belmont families, Vanderbilt families, the money that they had was just unconscionable, how much money they had. So, and they all had mansions close to each other. Like Belmont was here. Bayard Cutting was the Arboretum. That's going to be one of the videos, which was across from William K. Vanderbilt's, which was Idlehour and Oakdale. And then we have William K.'s son, William K. Vanderbilt II, who was in Centerport on the North Shore of Long Island, which is now the Vanderbilt Planetarium and Museum. And he's the one who started Long Island Motor Parkway. So I had to have notes and a family tree to, we got away from royalty here in the United States, but we still kind of had our own royalty with all these families, Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Kennedys. We had our own. They always called the Kennedy family the America's Camelot. So we have this fascination with these ultra rich people. So that's a little bit of history of Argyle Lake, and we're going to go see how the Argyle Lake kind of empties out or drains in, depending on your perspective. And then we'll talk a little Long Island Railroad over here. Okay, continue. Oh, perfect timing. Here comes the train. Long Island Railroad. This is the Babylon branch, which connects to the Montauk branch. And we're going to do a little history of Long Island Railroad and this railroad and why it wasn't always the Long Island Railroad. So this railroad, even though it's the Long Island Railroad now, and it's the Babylon branch, which connects to the Montauk branch to go all the way to Montauk Point, it always never was that. It was predates Long Island Railroad. It actually was the South Side Railroad, SSRR. The South Side Railroad was the original railroad tracks that went from Jamaica Station on the south shore of Long Island all the way to Patchogue, and it stopped at Patchogue. It continues more now, but back then it stopped at Patchogue. And it was around the same time as the Argyle Hotel, around 1880s, give or take. And then the Long Island Railroad bought them out, and they merged and incorporated. And now this rail line is the Long Island Railroad, but it was the South Side Railroad line, which maintained the tracks from Jamaica. This is Babylon, and went all the way to Patchogue, and then it stopped there, but it continues to Montauk now. So a little bit of history of Long Island Railroad right here. So remember, we were talking about conifers, identifying conifers. So this is flat and friendly. Flat and friendly. It is not square. The needles are not square, and they're not pointy and sharp. So this is a fir. And all these others over here are firs, I'm pretty sure. And then these over here are larches. You see how they look dead, but they're not dead because they are deciduous conifers. So we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 larches. When we come back in a couple of weeks, you'll see that they're going to start having needles come out. So we're going to continue a little further down that way. Right, I was able to grab a branch on these larches. They were really tall. But if you if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that the buds are swelling. They are getting ready to open soon. So this is I don't know what kind of larch it is, but it definitely is a larch, and it's going to open up with needles, and it's going to look like a pine tree, but it doesn't look like a pine tree now because it's a deciduous conifer. So I heard some squawking, and I looked up on this power pole, and sure enough, is a monk parrot nest right there. There's one right up there kind of moving along here, but they sound like parrots. They are known as Quaker parrots. There's one nest, and then as I was looking around, there he is. You kind of see him in the sun right there. Bright green, top right. I'm zoomed in like 15x. I don't want to kind of shake the camera because then it'll get all whacked out. But they are colony nesters. And as I was looking, as I looked up this cell phone tower, there was another one, another nest a little further up. Where was it? Right there. There's another colony nest of parrots. It could be an old one. I don't know if it's an active one because they usually don't. They usually just have one larger nest. But the monk parrots, there he is. Fun fact about the monk parrots is that they are a temperate parrot. So in other words, they can survive our winters. And we had one heck of a winter this winter, and they survived. They were escapees from John F. Kennedy Airport for when they were in quarantine. They kind of escaped, and they found a home right here. And they squawk just like parrots. You can't miss them. Oh, they kind of flying in and out of that nest. The one guy is right there. But I think there's another side to it that they're flying in and out of. So Quaker parrots, or monk parrots it's sometimes called. But they're bright green, have a little gray on their breast. There's another guy right there on the bottom. And they are colony nesters. Okay. All right, so we're on the other side of Argyle Lake. The sun's right in my eyes. But this is the, I guess, inlet because Carl's River flows this way. So this is the inlet for Argyle Lake when it was dammed. We're about 400 football fields, about 1,000 feet from the fish ladder at the end over there. And right behind me is the Long Island Railroad. And we're going to take a walk over there in a minute because this Carl's River flows under a whole bunch of roads to get to here. So let me just turn you around so you could see how far away we came. So the end where the fish ladder is all the way down there, right over there. So we're about 1,000 feet from here, and we're going to take a walk over to that bridge over there and look down, see if we see any fish. I don't think we're going to because it's too cold, but and it's not that deep, Argyle Lake. It's only about 4 feet deep or so. So, but it's really muddy and rocky, and you could see that the edges are kind of synthesized, for lack of a better word, just to protect the shoreline edges. So, okay, let's go over to the bridge. So, as suspected, I didn't see any fish, but the Carl's River is flowing this way, and it flows underneath here, and it flows underneath here, flows under the bridge, and we're going to go check out over there. So, Carl's River is flowing this way, underneath that road, the bridge, Argyle Lake over there, right down here, underneath this little bridge here, and then right over here, and there's the Long Island Railroad right over there. And this trail goes all the way to Belmont Lake State Park, where we were in one of those other videos. So ideally, with that fish ladder at the end of Argyle Lake, alewives, eel, striped bass, trout, salmon, all diagenous fish can come all the way up here and utilize this entire habitat, ideally. So, and then it stops at Southard's Pond because there's another dam at Southard's Pond and they can't get over that. So there needs to be a fish ladder over there. And then that would connect to Belmont Lake, which also needs another fish ladder because there's another dam over there. Here comes another train. That's going to New York City or to Jamaica or points west. So I'm gonna reconnect myself here because my car is over there and I kind of want to do the rest of this. But there's another parking lot on the opposite side here because there's a lot of walking through roads, over roads and parks and stuff, and we want to reposition ourselves here. So time for repositioning. So we're on the other side of Argyle Lake. Behind me here is Babylon High School. So we're in, again, I mentioned it before, but we're in the village of Babylon, incorporated village of Babylon. So this is the train to Babylon. Continues to Montauk, and right across from us over here, let me turn you around, right across the way here, that's where the Argyle Hotel was over there. And all those houses all over there were all built from when the Argyle Hotel was demolished. So, you know, these ultra rich people from the Gilded Age, the Rockefellers, well, Rockefeller I guess came later, Vanderbilts, Carnegies, Astors, all of these philanthropists are just fascinating to me, especially that time of year, from the end of the Civil War to, I guess, the beginning of World War I or the 1900s, because they had so much money. You know, it kind of relates to the ultra rich of today, but towards the end of their lives, I mean, sure, during their buildup, Carnegie was not, you know, everybody's like, oh, Carnegie was great. We have libraries because of Carnegie. Yeah, but when he was on his way up, he was not a nice guy, and neither were the Vanderbilts. So, you know, you think of the history of what these people were and what they were doing. I'm also looking in the shore for any critters, but it's still a little too early. You know, what did they do towards the end of their life? Sure, they donated a lot of money. Carnegie donated a lot of money to make the libraries. Vanderbilt's donated a lot of money. They have a university named after them, Vanderbilt University. So just the money, and, you know, all these people that were, all their descendants, they were almost like royalty, because they really didn't have to work ever, because of all the money that they had to buy and sell people and estates and all that stuff. Okay, let me rant over. All right, so I reset, moved the car, moved me. So we're kind of back where we were. If I didn't mention already, the railroad behind me, this is the Babylon train station, Long Island Railroad. Regular trains to and from New York City, and then all the way to Montauk Point, if you were so inclined to do that. But we're gonna continue on the Carls River over here, and we're gonna kind of walk up a little bit to, we're probably not gonna go all the way to Southard's Pond. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll walk up a little bit. It's such a beautiful day. It's hard to just call it, but we're gonna kind of walk up this way and check out the river on the way. We crossed over to the other side to hear the echo from the railroad bridge. You can really hear the monk parrots now. They're right behind me. Of course, now they settle down, be quiet. But because of that fish ladder, so this whole access, let me turn you around. So this whole river here, Carls River, all the way this way, all the way up to Southard's Pond, is now going to be open for fish to come in and out because of that fish ladder. So we're going to continue along this little trail here, which is really nice, up to over there. All right, so here's a spot that is puzzling me. I haven't figured out what this is yet. Let me turn you around. So this is a little offshoot. It's almost like a canal. I don't know the history of what this is, but it looks like it's man-made because it's straight. Both shorelines are straight. Seems like it was a canal for something, but the water's pretty clear. You can see the bottom. No fish because it's still a little too cold. And then on the other side, it gets a little deeper, and this is all that Carls River flowing down into Argyle Lake. And again, that fish ladder is going to allow all the alewives and other diagenous fish, eels, striped bass, trout, salmon to come on up the river here. And the birds are out and singing. We heard the monk parrots before. As I was walking along before, I heard some red-winged blackbirds. Hopefully is a little group of starlings over there. So we're gonna continue on the trail over here. The Hibernian Hall, the Babylon Hibernian Hall is over there. Little League Field is over there. The elementary school where we're parked is over there. And then the trail continues all the way to Southard's Pond. So let's check out the starlings over here. Let me kind of zoom in a little bit for you. Yeah, there we go, a little bit more. Hey, do you know what a group of starlings are called? A murmuration of starlings. Fun fact about starlings. Here, let me just let you listen to them. Fun fact about starlings is that they were introduced here because some guy in Central Park was doing Shakespeare in the Park, and there's some play with starlings in it. For all you Shakespearean people out there, put down in the comments what play it is that mentions starlings. And the guy released starlings. And now starlings are freaking everywhere. And they are an invasive species. But when there's a whole big flock of them, a murmuration of starlings, you can really hear them because they're really squawky. We're going to continue there. I heard some red-winged blackbirds before. Hopefully we could catch them again. So I saw this bridge as I was kind of walking here, this old bridge over here and the one right in front of me over here. And I figured this whole bridge system was probably the old Carl's River, because this whole area has been remodeled, redone over and over and over again. There's the Irish flag for the Hibernian Hall right behind me here. So this was probably where the Carl's River used to run. And then this whole area has been redone so many times, but they left the bridge. And this is kind of what those old bridges used to look like, that kind of whitish cement over here. But then the new bridge is right over there. So here's the Carl's River flowing pretty fast into Argyle Lake, and then down that fish ladder, under Montauk Highway, and into Great South Bay. So if it's warmer out, we would probably see fish down here, but it's still a little too cold. So we're going to come back in a couple of weeks and see if we can see any fish over here. Definitely people fishing over here too. I did hear some red-winged blackbirds. So the call of a red-winged blackbird is very unique. And if I hear it in the background, I'll just shut up and say, hey, there it is. But it's very unique and it's very easy to identify, because I know bird calls, some of them are easy, some of them mimic other birds, so it's hard to know your bird calls. But the red-winged blackbird is shunkaree, shunkaree. And of course, I don't hear it now. I heard it before. But they're all kind of bouncing around here, and they're easy to identify because they are in marshy areas like this with tall grasses, and they have kind of reddish on their wings. I was hoping one of them would do the call. No, no, of course not, because it's on cue. But if you hear that, you can always just Google red-winged blackbird call, and you'll be able to hear it also. But I'm not hearing any now, of course. So, all right, let's continue down. So this is the last crossing for the Carl's River. And see, somebody's fishing. Where is he? Right behind me here. So hopefully he'll catch something. But this is the last crossing of road crossing of the Carl's River. It continues all the way north up to Southard's Pond, where there's that dam. And there's no fish ladder there. There should be a fish ladder there, so the fish could go up there. But it was pretty deep at that bridge over here. There's a little pedestrian bridge over here. Will be our stop. And then we'll take a walk a little bit further in, see if we see any wetlands. Keep the sun behind my head here. So that's where we just were. Carl's River flowing pretty fast down here. It's pretty shallow over here, but again, the water's still pretty cold. So I'm trying to look to see if I see any fish, but I don't see any. Let's take a look at the other side here. So now this is when it kind of gets a little choked off by all this Phragmites over here, the common rush. This really fills in and chokes off these native wetlands. You can kind of see it flows up that way, and then this Carl's River flows all the way up to Southard's Pond. There's a whole bunch of wetlands, and there's all these trails that kind of zigzag and network through here. And there's a horse stable up there, so there are horse people that will come through here. So let's walk up a little bit and see what we see. This is pretty cool. Bat house for the little brown bat. Now the little brown bat is like this big. They are teeny tiny. I don't know if there's any bats up there because I don't see any guano on the bottom, so I can't tell if it's an active bat box or not. I can't see up there, but usually bat boxes are a really good mosquito repellent, because I think there was a stat they eat something like 500 mosquitoes a minute or something, some crazy stat like that. But we need to house the bats. So if you live near a wetlands, put up a bat house. You never know. I heard they're very finicky about their houses where they go. They apparently love attics, because I know a lot of people that get bats in their attic, and some people have bats in their belfry. So we're going to continue a little bit and try to avoid some mud here. Right, I found what I came here for. So as I suspected, the water level is really high because of all the snow melt and the rain that we had. But this is also the time of the skunk cabbage. Here, let me turn you around and let me zoom you in. I'm going to zoom you way in, and hopefully we won't get too shaky here. See that right out there? It's kind of purplish reddish right there. Let's zoom in a little. Zoom in a little more. Zoom in a little more. A little more. Right there. Let's focus. That is skunk cabbage. I'll put the Latin name down below. I'm trying not to move the phone too much. That is skunk cabbage. That is a native wetland plant. It is the first plant to kind of bloom in the spring. And the fun fact about skunk cabbage is that there is some kind of chemical reaction going on inside the plant itself where it actually will create heat and will melt the snow and the ice that's around it. I kind of wish it was still a little snowy frozen now, although it's going to get probably snowy and frozen again because this is early March and anything can happen. Oh, there's another one over here. Let me turn you around. Let me go over here because it's kind of in the shade. And there it is, right there. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. There it is. That is skunk cabbage. The flower is inside those folds of the leaves. I'm trying to find one that's a little bit closer, that's kind of open a little bit. Very common in wetlands. They're all over the place. And this is the first pollen of honeybees. So honeybees will go inside that, or here's one that's very close. Honeybees will go in and, oh, they're all over here. Okay, cool. I'm in the shadow of this one, so let me zoom in. Let me get my footing here so I don't slip and fall, and zoom in a little bit. See that opening? Right inside that opening is the flower itself, the inflorescence. And the plant itself will create some kind of chemical reaction to melt the snow and ice around it. And there's another one. Let me see if I can move slowly, slowly, slowly. You can kind of see them all around each other. And there's another one over somewhere over there. I'm zoomed in too much. I can't see where I'm going. But this is skunk cabbage. That's kind of what I wanted to find while we're out here. And when you take the plant itself, the leafy plant itself, and crush it up, it does have a kind of a skunky smell. So that's why it's called skunk cabbage. And is it edible? Some people say yes. I've never tried it. I don't think I'm going to try it. But if we were to come back here in the spring. Oh, did you hear that? That was a cardinal. Let's see if he does it again. Hear it? Northern cardinal. You know, the red, really bright red. There he goes again. And there's a whole bunch of starlings in the background. So this trail continues all the way up to Southard's Pond, where we were in our other video. Let me kind of turn around a little bit, get in the shade. There we go. And where our other video, so the Carls River is over here. And the trails here go kind of back and forth. They're all over the place. It's hard to get lost in here, but you can get lost. So I'm going to end the video right here. So this is Tom from the Tom Parsley channel. Thank you for coming along. Don't forget those 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. I'm on all the socials. We'll chop this up into shorts, and we'll see you on the next video.